Hello, everyone. My name is Joanna Kowaleska, and I have a great pleasure of speaking with Katherine Bell today. She's an amazing dreamer with a PhD in astrophysics. How cool is that? She's also a host of a wonderful weekly radio show, The Dream Journal, since 2019. And she's about to publish her first book about dreams, I guess. So, welcome, Katherine. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Joanna. Really glad to be here with you, and it's just a pleasure to catch up and to chat even across the half of the world away.
Yes. The beauty of technology, right? We can
That's
stay
it.
connected even if we live on completely opposite sides of the world.
Mhm.
So, the first thing that comes to my mind, the first question is how did that happen? Then an astrophysicist became a dream worker, a dreamer. Like, this is like, wow, talking about two completely different sides of the world.
Right, exactly. I mean, well, they both happen at night. We got the stars and the dreams. But,
True.
I went into astrophysics because my whole family are scientists. I have three siblings and two parents, and they're all scientists, mostly physics, chemistry. And it just seemed like that was like what I should do. I should go into science. And I love math. I don't know. I just have this math brain. And so maybe it ties in with the music that I love to do too. This was something that I was good at, but it took me many years to discover that just because I'm good at something doesn't necessarily mean it's good for me. And so I studied in college and at Williams College in Massachusetts, and then I came out here to UC Santa Cruz and got my PhD because it just seemed like the next logical thing to do was just to study my PhD. And then I worked for NASA over the hill for 11 years. And so because that seemed like the next logical thing to do, but turns out that logic doesn't necessarily get you where you want to go. At least it didn't get me where I wanted to go. It was helpful, though the mind is a very helpful thing. It's a very powerful, very human part of who we are. And yet I had been ignoring my heart. I had been ignoring these signals. I was really unhappy. That I was unhappy really from high school, 13, 14, 15 years old or so, all the way through the whole time I worked at NASA. 93 was when I got my PhD, and I quit NASA in 2004. And I just was really unhappy to the degree that I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And I was kind of suicidal for 10 or 15 years where I was like looking for a way out, just really unhappy. And yet I'd kind of discounted that. It seemed like that wasn't important. And so I had somehow told myself that I could just keep doing what I thought I should be doing, and I didn't need to pay attention to my heart. But my dreams knew better, and I had a lot of miserable dreams, which of course I wasn't wanting to ignore those too, and I did ignore them for quite some time. A lot of dreams about these cold, barren castles or battlefields raging. And, I started to get like little clues. Like I had a dream. I was in therapy while I was working at NASA because I was like, why am I so unhappy? This is just can't go on. And so I wasn't really so into the dreams, but I was starting to pay attention to them. And so I brought this dream to therapy. I was just writing about it actually yesterday in my book. And I had this dream where I peed and the water boiled in the toilet. It was so hot. My pee was so hot. And I was like, what is this? And I brought it to therapy. My therapist is not really a dream counselor, but he was like, okay. What was that like for you? And I realized that I was angry. I was pissed. And so like not only was I unhappy, but I was pissed. And so I kind of that helped catalyze me to get to a place where instead of just being like quietly numb, that actually galvanized me. Recognizing my anger was like, hey, what am I doing here? How did I end up here? Place where I'm so unhappy. And so that dream was a catalyst in my therapy. And then I kind of started to pay more attention to my dreams that they were telling me something was wrong, that I needed to do something in my life. And so I started to pay more attention to my dreams. And once I quit, my whole world kind of crumbled because I had a child and I had a baby actually at the time I quit. And so that was one of my other reasons for quitting. But then my marriage didn't work, and my marriage was falling apart, and so within a few years of quitting NASA, my marriage fell apart, and then I had nothing. I have no career, I had no husband, and what am I gonna do? And so I had this baby, and I was taking care of the child, and that was the focus of my life for a long time. But then I was like, "What? There's more. What is there more?" And I started really tuning into my dreams. I started doing various dream programs to help me connect with my dreams. And I started kind of following these breadcrumbs that my dreams were sprinkling. And, my dream world had been very black and white and harsh and a lot of violence, but kind of distant violence, like, ooh,
Mhm.
from a distance. And it exploded into color. And I started having these really intense dreams. And a lot of them were very unpleasant. I'm still prone to nightmares, although honestly, I haven't had one in a while, which is interesting.
Mm.
But I'm
Interesting.
typically yeah, I typically have a lot of nightmares, and I've always, like it's become a thing of curiosity for me, like, so what is going on here? What is this dream leading me to understand about myself? And so I've followed some of these clues that were sprinkled, and I had a dream a while ago, oh gosh, this would have been like 15 years ago now, where, I was talking to my regular dream coach, because by this point I had a dream coach that I would
Right.
see every 3 or 4 weeks, and I still do that. Really vital part of who I am is to process these dreams. And in the dream, I was talking to my dream coach, and what I was talking to him about was that I had a client that I was working with, and I had questions about the client. In waking life, I didn't have any clients. I hadn't even really occurred to me that I could do that.
Mm.
But this dream was kind of a wake-up call for that. It's like, "Oh, wow, I could do clients." And so I started to talk to people and have clients, working with dreams, and, there was these various breadcrumbs, like, there was, this idea of, starting a podcast, a radio show also showed up in a dream first, and I've had
Wow.
many, many dreams about the podcast as I go. It's been 6.5 years, 327 shows, the one I just released
Incredible.
Saturday, every single week, and, it's been a really amazing part of my life. And then writing my book. We had some huge fires here about 5 years ago, got up all the way to the edge of my house,
Wow.
and so we were lucky that we came through okay, but as I was recovering from this fires, I had a huge series of dreams that helped me recover from the trauma of the fires, and we might wanna talk a little more about that. But one of the dreams that popped up in among all these fire dreams was a dream where I was talking to somebody and saying, "So which shall I write first? Shall I write a novel book or a science book?" And I had not at that point been thinking about writing a book. But the dreams were like, "Oh, okay, I could write, and I love to write."
Yeah.
So I followed that. The book that I'm working on now that I've is finished, I'm looking for a publisher, is kind of a combination of novel and science because I tell my own dream story. I share like 130 of my own dreams. So
Wow.
it's really my own dreams. And then also the science of dreaming and everything I've learned about dreaming and a lot of techniques for help working with yourself with dreaming. And so these all came from my dreams. So following these nudges has really been so helpful over the years.
Yes, you said so many important things, so I don't even know what my next question should be. But I hope we're gonna get to all of those important points. But obviously, my question was like, did the dreams help you change the career? Well, you already answered that. They accelerated the process, which is incredible. And what you said about the dreams showing us like how we really feel like about the anger, it's so important because I feel that because many of us carry emotion that we are not even really aware of them, I could see so many people feeling the same way as you are describing that you've been feeling, having this like perfect life, doing things that they're good at, and relationship and family and a home and a salary and you can say like, yeah, like what's wrong with you? Why I'm not happy? Like
Right.
this is the dream I've been promised and I'm not happy, right? And
Yes.
to have the courage to, as you said, to start listening to maybe the wisdom that comes from within, right? To put
Yeah.
aside the mind for a little bit. Like I also agree with you, mind is amazing and science is amazing. I also love that. But there is also the other part, which is
Right.
like our inner truth, our inner wishes and desires. So that's been so brave of you that you just decided to drop career like that. And I'm sure it was not easy to do. And
No.
I can only imagine the backlash that you probably received from family or friends.
Family.
Yeah, family of
Well,
scientists. I can only imagine how hard was that for you. And to know that dreams were there to be your companion, to be your guide during this process, it's so incredible. And it's like one of the reasons why I love talking about the dream so much, and why I have this podcast, and why I love to hear about podcasts and sharing stories of other people, is because it's still such a niche, and people don't even understand how amazing dreams can be in helping us making such a huge turns
yeah.
in our life, right?
Right. Absolutely. But the amazing thing is that everybody dreams. So people don't, you're right, it's very niche. Not a lot of people talk about their dreams. And yet, the research has shown is that virtually everybody dreams 4 or 5 times a night. And most of us remember very few of those dreams.
That's
And
right.
so, and there's something evolutionarily vital about dreaming, because it looks like, so humans dream, but also, think about your dog when they're sleeping. They're dreaming, having dreams too. Your cats, and then all mammals seem to dream. But even more, at the IESD conference in World Duck, we had an amazing talk by, I think it was Michael Pena.
I love that talk. It was
Yeah, and he
incredible.
talked about animals dreaming, and he showed evidence that that octopuses dream. See, well, shall we say, we don't know for sure if animals dream because we can't ask them, but you can see certain evidence, like the octopuses, and they sleep like most animals do, and during certain stages of their sleep, they start flashing colors, and then they go quiescent again. And so there's a time during their sleep when they're active. And he also showed that cuttlefish, when they're sleeping, will flash danger signs while they're sleeping. So they are having nightmares, poor things. There was, even during the pandemic, a spider scientist who took her spiders home over when the labs were all closed. And she was watching her spiders dream. She was watching them sleep. And she knows during the sleep, there were periods where they were hanging there and they start twitching, and then they go back to quiet again. And she's like, I think the spiders are dreaming. So spiders, I mean, it's something incredibly evolutionarily vital to everybody that dreams happen. And so, what I understand is that the dreams have a vital role, but it's a subconscious process below the level of
Yeah.
consciousness. And so most of the time, well, our kidney function, we don't
Of
know,
course.
there's no way to pay attention to the liver, that kind of thing. But breathing is another subconscious process, and we can tune into the breathing sometimes. But most of the day, we ignore it. Right now, I'm not paying attention, well, except this very moment. But it usually takes care of itself. And dreaming is more like that, where there is, most of the time, it's taking care of its business on its own, and yet we can remember some dreams. And there are many spiritual practices involving deepening the breath and how beneficial that is. And so the kind of way that I approach dreaming is to deepen the dream. So, sort of akin to the deepening the breath. I don't need to understand the dream. The tagline from my podcast is, a dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. And so I don't think we need to know the meanings, quote unquote,
Yeah.
meanings of our dream in order for them to be meaningful. And even people who say, oh, I never dream. And well, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And they are helping you. They help with emotional stability. They help with making decisions. And anyone who ever said, I'll sleep on that, really meant I'll dream on that. And they help you with read facial expressions. They help us fine tune our understanding of facial expressions and creativity. I mean, there's like this whole list of things that the research has shown dreams help with. And that is helping you every single night. So one of the reasons to get a full night's sleep is to be sure to get plenty of dreaming in to help you live a better life.
Yeah, it's so true what you said. And the sentence that I hear so much, like, oh, like, doesn't matter, like, dreams don't matter, like, whatever.
It was just a
It was just
dream.
a dream, my favorite not sentence, right? And so I explain it very similar to what you just said. I say, like, okay, but like, look at the human being, right? It's like perfect creation, like perfect machine in quotes, like everything about us has a purpose. There's not a single hair on your head or single cell, nail, wherever you want, how tiny or big it is, that has no purpose. So you're trying to tell me that we, during evolution, like we lost the tail or wherever you believe that happened during evolution. I don't care. But how we are now, with
Mhm.
all the organs and cells and blood vessels and stuff, like everything is needed. So you telling me that everything is needed, but dreams are not needed? Like, what does that make, right? Like,
Right.
and us, that sometimes when I explain it this way, like it does something, you know, like someone say,
Mhm.
you know, like, hey, maybe there is something, you know, maybe there was a seed put there because
Right. I hope so. 'Cause I
yeah,
really think that if we spread interest in dreaming, that it will improve individual lives, which therefore improves humanity. There's a famous quote. Jeremy Taylor used to say this, but he was quoting Ferenczi or
mhm.
somebody like that, which was that dreams are the workshop of evolution, and that the dreams are where we practice what we're going to do next. And so, the more we dream, the more we get to do that practice, the more our choices will really support us, and that we can move forward and have better lives. And so that the dreams are just valuable as they are, even as a subconscious process. And yet we can deepen that. We can enhance the work that they're doing by tuning into them and by just sharing them. That's the big mission of my podcast, is to get people talking about dreams. And like your podcast too, Joanna, I like to see many more podcasts about dreaming. I think it's something that I'd like to see more people talk about. It's wonderful.
Yeah, same, exactly the same. So 6 years that you've been doing your radio show, like you've spoken to so many amazing dreamers and people that take completely different angles on dreams, right? And there are
Yep.
completely different method and ideas of looking at dreams, understanding dream, processing dreams, somatic work with dreams, like wherever you want. So there is something for everyone. I
Yeah.
also always say, like, if you're very technical and logical, okay, so it's processing the memories, processing the emotion, stay there, like it's fine. If you are trying to dig deeper into maybe some spiritual or other stuff that's happening there, dimensions, astral projections, whatever, awesome, that's also, there is space for that. So I feel that work with dreams can be so broad, and it doesn't really require from you to change any of your beliefs. Any person from any gender, background, or culture, tradition, religion, even, for me, can work with dreams. And as you said about the individual and collective power of dreams, this is something that's very deep to my heart, because very close to my heart, because we see so much division and so much hatred and so much fights between different, you know, nations and religions and so on and so on. So it can be an anchor for connecting one to the another. And also, I believe that when we do look into our dreams, when we do see the truth that comes into our dreams, we become the best version of ourselves. And from that place, we can become the best partner and the best employee and the best, and so on and so on and so on.
Exactly. So
So
true.
yeah,
Mhm. So I want to, you can touch into the idea about the many different ways of looking at
yeah,
dreams. And that's one of the things that I got really excited about when I joined the IASD is, go to the conference and there's like 120 presenters and each has their own way of working with dreams and they're all amazing. So I'm hosting a festival in Santa Cruz, a dream festival, October 10th through 12th. But I'm bringing it up, not just to promote it, but that too, which is because our opening event, we're going to spend 90 minutes doing a event which we're calling the Many Paths of Dreamwork.
mm,
And we're going to have one person share a dream, and then 5 different practitioners are going to spend 10 minutes each with this person exploring the dream from a different perspective, because we have the body perspective, they say
right.
the spiritual perspective, there's the emotional perspective, there's symbology, there's collective. So there's, these are only 5 of the many, many ways to do it. But we're going to show people that you don't have to have one way to look at a dream. And it can be very helpful to have many different people reflect on a dream. I actually host, 3 or 4 different ongoing groups right now. And whenever there's time, I like to share a dream as well because I'm a dreamer. And it's so helpful to get all the
Yes,
different perspectives from the
incredible.
different groups, the different people in each group. I get little bits of ahas, I get little insights from every time I share the dream, even if I'm not getting feedback. One of the things I do on my podcast is I usually start with one of my own dreams, and I just will say the dream and I'll just say a few words, try not to take too long with it, but just a few words about it. And just saying it out loud, I often get insight into my dream, even if nobody is giving me a reflection. So it's all valuable. If you write it down, draw it, dance it, share it to one person, share it to somebody else. It's just, have you noticed I'm very enthusiastic about this?
Same here. haven't noticed. Yeah, everyone knows that. About the dream sharing and hosting dream groups. I also find that it's like such an important work, especially those groups. Like I personally really don't like, very strict rules or dogmas or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just don't fit well in any of those boxes. I grew up in a house with a lot of rules, and I
Yeah.
just, I really dislike that. Okay. So for me, this is also one of the reasons why I love Dreamwork so much, because it really allows me to discover, to learn about myself, about whatever is going on with me, with the world through my dreams in various different ways. And when I attend dream circles, dream groups, this is exactly as you say, you can hear different perspective, different words, different ideas, encouragement, and so on and so on. And it really does something. It's hard to explain, right? Like, but because what really happens? Maybe it's not even, maybe it doesn't even resonate. But even if it doesn't resonate, it does resonate because it doesn't resonate. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
but it's
Right.
even saying it out loud, as you said. Sometimes I share a dream with my husband, and even by saying something without any feedback, he doesn't even answer sometimes to just listen. And it's like, and I say this one sentence, because dreams love the words play. And sometimes I say a sentence and I say, I just said that.
Right.
Oh, and in the dream, I was like so burdened by something. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm burdened, and like sometimes this is more than enough. So it's incredible what holding space for dreams. It can be in very simple ways with anyone in your community, in your home, even sharing them with your friends, with someone that wants to listen, of course,
Yeah.
can do, right?
Right. And there is a whole thing about dreams because of like kind of the ethics of dream sharing.
Yes.
And that's something I'm very passionate about because it's very tender. Like these are our vulnerable inmost feelings. And sometimes, as you were saying earlier, that we discover things about ourselves in our dreams. Like I didn't know I felt like that. And I might have some shame. And so finding the right place and the right person to share your dreams with is really important. And so, ISD has an ethics statement about dream sharing, which I think is really important, which is to say that the dreamer is the ultimate authority of their own dream. And nobody else can say, oh, well, your dream definitely means, this, because that's, and I was in a situation where one of my teachers was that kind of good person who would say, your dream definitely means this. And at the time, I learned a lot from this person, but ultimately it left me kind of wounded, like, whoa, but wait a minute, what about all these other parts of the dream that are meaningful to me? And so, I have a lot to say about this kind of dream work. And so it's important to find somebody who can just ask questions like, oh, well, what about this part of the dream? And what do you feel about that? Or what does that remind you of? Like, if asking a lot of questions is a really helpful thing in a dream sharer. Sometimes people are like, someone's going to share a dream with me. Oh, what do I do? I have to come up with something wise to say. No, you don't actually. Just ask questions. That will help the dreamer the most. Someone shares a dream with you, you can just go, huh, wow, that really, that's interesting. What does that remind you of? Asking questions is a great way to respond to a dream. And then the dreamer gets to mull over all the implications of the dream, and they get to decide what the dream means.
Yes, I couldn't agree more about what you said about like the ethics of dream sharing and of helping other people connect to their dreams. Do you find it also tricky sometimes to explain what you do to others? Because I feel that when you say, oh, yes, I'm like a dream worker or dream analysis, so people just assume that you're going to tell them what their dream means. It's like, if that's not what you're doing, so what do you do exactly? So why I come to you, right? Like, I find it sometimes so tricky to explain someone that this is the way I work and this is what I do. And I truly believe that the authority belongs to the dreamer and the dreamer only. But I guess, oh, so can you tell me what my dream means? Well, no.
But you can tell me what your dream means, and we'll talk about it together. And it helps to have somebody trying to draw the dreamer out. And that's what I do in sessions, as I'm sure you do too as well, is I'm just kind of asking questions and saying, well, I might say, like, that reminds me of something. And then the dreamer can say, no, that's not it. Or maybe sometimes they go, whoa, I hadn't thought of that. And that's the benefit of sharing with somebody else, because I think of dreaming as like we're looking down like a tube at our lives. It's just this kind of narrow tube. And like, this is what I see all day long, like this one thing. And the dream has a different perspective. It comes from over here and it goes, oh, but look at the side of that thing over there. That looks very different. And other people looking at my dream will also see the dream figure in other ways. And so I get different perspectives of the thing I'm dreaming about. And some of it may ring true and some of it doesn't. But just this tunnel vision we have in waking life where I'm like, I'm focused, I'm doing the computer, I'm doing, the next thing and the next thing. Like, I got me through a huge career at NASA. It got me by following that tube. And, that was something, that was an accomplishment. And yet it wasn't all there was. It was just a rabbit hole in a lot of ways. So like drinking your own Kool-Aid, just being in your own rabbit hole is where most of us are at. And that can be fine. But if you want to have a better life, if you want to change some things, if you want a new perspective on who you are, then sharing the dreams with other people will start to broaden your perspective. So you start to get a bigger view of what's really going on.
So true.
Mhm.
So I really love to ask my guests about how dreams can help others during time of crisis. And it can be any crisis, even like a big life dilemma can be a crisis, right? It doesn't need to be something terrible, but something that we struggle with, that we see as an obstacle or challenge. So you mentioned before that the book that you just wrote was inspired by the dreams that you received after the fire. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
I would. That was a very intense time in my life. This is out in California. We do have wildfires.
Yeah.
And and we've had several up here over the years. In 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, thank you very much, we had an intense wildfire that swept over the mountains and came right up to my house, and I was evacuated for 2.5 weeks. I was down living in my van in a friend's driveway, but because of COVID, we couldn't socialize, and so, like, I would come in with my mask and use the bathroom and then leave again. So I was really alone, during all that time, and I had a lot of really intense feelings about the fire because when time that I evacuated, I didn't know if my house was gonna be here
Yeah.
when I came back, and, like, I had taken a van full of stuff. I just take what I could. I took, like, some of the art, I took my computer, I took my musical instruments, and then left, and I didn't know if everything would be gone. So this whole 2.5 weeks, I was, like, in a really intense state, and we didn't have a lot of information coming from that area, from where the fires were. And so I had a whole series of dreams, and I had, "What am I doing? I'm gonna sit here and write down my dreams," because I had a lot of time when I was sitting there on the driveway. And so like, one of the early dreams that came about maybe 5 days after the evacuation, I saw this golden giant. He was like 3 stories tall, this man who was just gold. He's covered with gold, and he stands there, but then he screams and he grabs, like, his kidneys, like, behind, and he falls to the ground, and I'm like, "Wow, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna help this guy?" And I have no idea what this dream means. I couldn't even begin to imagine what that meant. And I, had a session with my coach. I was like, "Emergency session, I need one now, please." And so we set it up and we talked about that, and, like, he didn't know either, of course. He's not an interpreter, he's just a coach, like I am. And we looked up kidneys, and kidneys is, the seat of fear. And, and it was so that suddenly things started to click for me. I was like, "Oh my god, I have this huge fear," but I wasn't able to connect with that fear because, especially in the first couple of week or so, I was like, "Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. This is gonna be okay. I'm just here in my van and, it's gonna be fine." And I didn't really realize how afraid that I was and how scared that I might lose everything, like my home. I've lived here 20 years.
Wow.
And so to lose that was just intense. And, the smoke was just pouring off the mountain. So I was down near the beach and I could go out to the beach and I could see the mountain where the smoke just pouring down off it. I'm like, "Oh, that's where I live." And so, but I was like, "Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine." But this dream made me realize not so fine. But it's okay. The golden man had the fear, and I didn't have to feel my fear. I didn't have to be overwhelmed because I'm sure I was afraid to be overwhelmed by the fear if I let myself really feel it because it was huge, 3 stories tall, this intense kind of existential fear. And so I'm like, "Okay, he can hold it." And he's a strong man, he can hold it. And it was really helpful for me to recognize that, okay, here I am, I'm like breathing shallow, so something's going on, but I'm still pretending everything's fine. but I know that the man can hold my
Mm.
fear. And it was just like, let me kind of take a deeper breath and realize like, okay,
Okay.
I'm not alone. He's holding my fear and he's going to be able to take care of that. And so that was kind of the start of me reconnecting with what was really going on for me. I had a whole series of dreams, but another one that comes up for me is that was probably, I think it was still evacuated during this point for this dream, where I am on a mountaintop where it's covered with snow and I'm barefoot in like this little dress, totally under equipped. And I'm going down this road and I'm following this road, which reminds me a lot of the road that comes down off of this mountain where I live now, because I do live on a mountain. And as I'm coming down and the snow is starting to melt and I'm going to cry right now. And I'm getting to this place where it's warmer and I can start to feel like more like myself. And on the corners of this road, there's these people that I don't know, but they're going, "Yeah, you're doing great, Catherine. You're doing so well." And it was, for me, it was about coming off the heights of dissociation and like that I was like frozen for a while. I couldn't. I couldn't let in those huge feelings, and that's okay. I think of dissociation as a human superpower. Very useful, but best used sparingly. So, but I was starting to come back into my body and come down into the
Yeah.
warmth and the connection. And I was getting cheered on by these
Wow.
archetypes, these allies who were just saying, "You got it. This is great." And so this really helped me to come back into my body and feel like, okay, yes, it's scary. I still might have lost my house. I don't know. And it's gonna be all right. Like I can start to feel my feet again. Like I was so numb that I was just like up in my head. But then after this dream and as part of this whole unwinding, I started to feel like, okay, my belly's like, oh, okay, let's just see what happens. And it turned out okay. Luckily, my house is fine. I can see burn out the window. I can see burn scars all the way around the house. We lost some retaining walls, but it's okay. And so I had like many dreams after this as well that helped me reconnect with my body. And I will say that even if I had never remembered these dreams, I believe that the dreams were helping me to reconnect with my body, helping me to
Yes.
feel more grounded. And yet by remembering them and working with them, I could enhance that process. So that's an example of a whole series of dreams that helped me
Yeah.
to be more in my body and connected and come back to my feeling self, which I find so valuable.
So thank you for sharing. That's very, very touching. And what you're saying again about the dreams, that even if we don't remember them, they're still working for us. I think it's very, very important point also to highlight here, because many times we may feel like, oh, like we are rushing out of bed, we don't remember, we don't have time to journal, it happens, or that we do have dreams that we don't understand. And we
Right.
may try to break our head and like be really confused and sometimes maybe even frustrated. Like sometimes happens to me, I have a dream, I feel it's a big dream and I just can't crack it. But then
Right.
I know, but okay, but only by having it, like the process already has started, has begun, right? As you
Right.
say, like
Yeah.
there's something, some emotions are being processed, something is happening within my body, in my soul, in my
Yes.
mind,
Yeah, the
and
neural wiring. I think the brain wires a certain way. Yes.
exactly. So it's
Mhm.
so important to remember that. But
Mhm.
but again, working with dreams and taking it to the next level, as you said, I really love the metaphor of like just maybe deepening the breath a little bit, right? Because on my sessions, I also hold like yoga nidra and sound healing sessions. So I always say like, you can deepen your breath a little bit, right? So this is exactly what you just said. It's a beautiful metaphor. I love it. That if you can deepen it a little bit, if you can look at it or write it down or give it a title or look at the main emotion, like it can be such a simple act, or
Mhm.
draw, as you said, or even draw a little bit the character, or just say it to someone.
Mhm.
Just share the dream with someone. The ripples can go even deeper. Or
Yeah.
maybe the work can be done a little bit faster, right? Because you may
Right.
also on the conscious level understand something that for now maybe only subconsciously you understood, right? Like this connection that you mentioned, like you feel like you're coming down, and it completely makes sense because when we are in time of such an intense stress, uh, it's normal that we dissociate and we are into the survival mode. But as
Oh,
you
it's vital. We have to survive.
we must, because otherwise we just fall apart. But later, if we don't come back to the normal, like we don't regulate ourselves, like we can stay detached, as you said, like completely detached, like, oh, I'm the strong woman and I went through so many things. So wherever, like fires, who cares, right? But that's not true, because deep inside, the fear, my home, my belongings, the safety, the most basic safety that human needs, right? Our home.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. And it's so beautiful to witness you and those dreams and to hear how, again, how powerful this work is.
Mhm. It's incredibly helpful. And there's something, like, I love how we're emphasizing that you don't need to really fully understand a dream to get benefit from exploring it. And one of the things I like to do in my groups is a kind of embodiment where we have somebody stand up, and even sometimes just the act of literally standing up and like imagine yourself as a character in the dream is like, whoa, people already get some ahas. And you can have an aha without understanding it. This is something I've noticed. People will go like, ooh, there's an aha in there for me somewhere. Like I can't even put it into words, but it's just something like my brain just sorted something out. Like, oh, okay, I just got something from that, but I can't really put it into words. And so it seems strange, but as you share dreams with other people, like you were talking about sharing with your husband, he's just like, oh, I get that. That there's something about that. And I think what is really going on, I actually did a little research into this, that when we have an aha, we have an insight, it's literally untangling some neural connections, because we
Wow.
have like neural connections in our brain. And sometimes they get like cross-wired, and we're making associations that don't really make sense. But when we have an insight, then the wiring straightens out, and then we have the simpler connection. So it actually is literally untangling our neural wiring.
Yeah. Wow, that's very, very interesting. But it exactly feels like that, right? When you have certain like this understanding, it's like really like something has changed on the physical level, right? Or
Right.
maybe this what you're talking about, the neurons, maybe they just untangled or something,
Right.
shifted in how they communicate.
And now I have
Um,
more space in my brain. I don't have to like be all snarled up over here, because now that's smoothed out. And so then I have more space in my life, and it's kind of amazing. And that's one of my favorite parts about dreaming, is that sensation of ah, okay. Even if there's no words, even though I can't really explain it to somebody else, like, oh, that's better. Does something for me. Yeah.
yeah. Totally. So
Mm.
during all these years of working with dreams, like, did you develop your own, like a way, your own method? Is there something that you really like to do when a dreamer comes to you with a dream?
Totally. I have certain formalisms that I find helpful, and I must say that I usually keep the formalisms to myself, but it's helpful to make it explicit. And in the book, I have actually described them explicitly so that people can engage their conscious mind and not just their feelings. And so, the number one thing is what I call basking, dream basking, which is just basking like in the nice sunny day, letting the sun shine
Mm.
in, and so like taking the dream and imagining the situations and feeling the feelings, and just trusting that that is the work of the dreaming, is just to
Mm.
feel what I felt in the dream and let in those sensations, imagine you're seeing what you saw in the dream. And so I have, things you can do. You can say like, what does that remind me of? But just the very act of going back into the dream. And that's, I think, why sharing with others is so helpful, because when you're explaining to somebody else, you have to sort out the logistics of the dream, the flow of the dream, and say what you say. It's never going to be exactly like the dream. That's okay though. And that helps you be in the dream more. So that's dream called dream basking. And then I have this thing that I like to do, which is part of dream basking. It's a formalism that I call TLC, like tenderness, longing. What is it? Tender loving care is kind of a standard American acronym, TLC. But for me, the T is tenderness. So there's the tender, which is to bring in this sense of tenderness. So they go, oh, well, here I am. I'm doing the best I can. Like when that golden giant was holding all my fear, I'm like, okay, he's over there and I'm over here.
Mm.
And maybe if some part of me thinks that I should feel all my fear, but maybe it's okay that I'm over here. Like bringing that tenderness, like, okay, I'm just not ready to feel that. I want him to hold that
Yeah.
a little longer. So that tenderness helps you to really be where you are with compassion. Self-compassion is something we need more of always. So that's the T. And then TLC, tenderness, longing. And then the longing to feel, to be happier, the longing to have a partner, whatever the longing, like in that particular dream, the longing was to start to feel my feelings again, to start to be connected with my feelings instead of just all isolated up here. And so I could still say, okay, yes, I'm still dissociated. That's okay. I have tenderness about that. But I have a longing, like what's happening in my heart? I want to find out. And I just don't know right now. So the longing. So it keeps me where I am right now and yet connects me with something in the future, something I want to go toward. And then the C, TLC, is curiosity. And like, well, what is it? What is it like? What is this like? What does this remind me of? And no, this is the place where if you want to, you can go to Google and look up symbols or Chat GPT or something like that. But I encourage you to start with the tenderness and the longing just inside yourself. But the curiosity part can be valuable too. Like maybe there's a horse in my dream, and boy, if you ever Google the symbolic meaning of a horse, you'll get a whole huge list. So maybe like 30 things on the list, but the three of them, like, oh, that resonates. So you bring your self-awareness to these lists and ask yourself if the various things make sense or if they don't. And so you're always bringing your body to saying, do I have an aha about that? Or is it just kind of like, meh, nah. So that curiosity can be really valuable. Like, what does this remind me of in my waking life? What does this remind me of in my past? Is this feeling familiar? Like, being chased by a bear, in a dream, like that. Not do I get chased by a bear in waking life, but do I have the feeling of being chased
Yeah,
by a bear in waking life? And when does that happen?
totally.
So that's the kind of questions that you can ask. And so you just want to get to know the dream, have a chat with the dream. Like when you meet somebody and you get to know them, you don't usually immediately Google them and ask them for their pedigree or all this. So you just have a chat with the dream, like you were having a chat with someone you just met and you want to get to know them a little better. So that kind of open-handed curiosity is the C of TLC that I like to use to help you like, well, what do I do next?
Really, really, really amazing. And I think everyone can do it. Like every person, even someone who never, tried to understand or connect to a dream. This is very simple, right? Like every
Yeah.
person can do it, just
Yeah.
basking in the dream. And what you said about self-compassion, I think it's so important. So many of us are very, very judgmental toward ourselves. And, our society is also not helping by always expecting more of us. It, yeah, hard to stay on top of everything.
Right.
So the self-compassion part I really love. And I think this is something that I'm going to take for sure from this conversation for myself, that
Right.
I wouldn't say I have nightmares, but I do have a lot of anxiety dreams, like those that, oh, I can't find the door, or the
Right.
elevator is taking me to the wrong floor, or like, all kind of like annoying stuff like that. And sometimes I'm just like, when I wake up, the first feeling is like, oh no, it's like still something is wrong, right? Like, oh, still something is wrong with me because I can't find this door, or I have the key, there's no door, or like the elevator takes me to the wrong place, or the stairs are not straight, or like, and then what you just said about self-compassion is like, yeah, it's so important that I will be able to say, okay, so there is this something, and there is the longing for something else, like for finding the door, for
Finding
arriving at the
door.
right floor, right?
Right.
But yeah, maybe it just
Mhm.
gonna take a while, right? It's
Right, and because that's been really valuable to me on my dream journey is to recognize where I'm at right now.
yeah,
And like the fact that I was miserable when I was working for NASA, I didn't want to even know that.
of
Like
course.
I feel like, oh, that has nothing to do with my job. Like I'm so unhappy. It has nothing to do with that because I don't want to quit that. How prestigious to be working for NASA. I mean, it was a real honor, and it was hard to quit. Oh my God.
I
But
cannot
like to
even
have
imagine that.
But there was like there's something that you're saying about recognizing where I'm at and having compassion for where I'm at. And like I wish I was these other things, and that's where the longing comes in. But to start with like, okay, I'm really pretty unhappy right now. And that's just true. And like, boy, to recognize that is valuable because the feelings are part of what move us through life. Like I thought I could ignore my feelings. I could just decide what to do. But it turns out feelings have a tremendous amount of valuable information. Like my brain is only a limited thing. I'm not tuning into everything in my environment, but if somebody comes into the room, I might feel that on a kind of a gut level, but my brain is like looking at the computer. And so it's valuable to have that, to tune in to these intuitions, even if I don't know why I don't really like, being with that person. I'm like, I'm just gonna trust that, even though I feel like I should like everybody. Like this was one of my old stories. Well, I should like everybody, but if I just don't feel comfortable with that person, I'm like, okay, well, it was nice chatting, and bye. Like I don't have to like everybody. Like maybe I don't have to understand why I don't want to be in this position. I don't have to understand. I just don't want to be here. And like, can I trust that I just don't want to be here? Even if my head says, but this is where you're supposed to be. Yeah. So
Yes,
tuning
and
into the body, so helpful.
uh, that's so, so true because I think that when we learn to listen to our dreams and let ourselves be guided by the dreams, our intuition gets much, much better. Okay, so
Yes.
I find this as an amazing tool for
Mm-hmm.
learning how to trust our intuition because
Mm-hmm.
dreams, it's an information that comes from somewhere, wherever you believe it comes from, doesn't matter. It comes from somewhere, right? But it's not your logical mind, right? So I realized that the more I learned to trust my dreams, to make decisions based on my dreams, to connect to my dreams and so on, the more those things, as you just mentioned, that someone entered the room and I just feel something and I have no reasonable explanation why I don't feel comfortable or suddenly I feel threatened or something else, I listen, as you said, okay, so there is something there within the energy or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
But this is because after steps that I took because of my dreams and I saw the results of trusting my own dreams and I said, hey, I can trust myself. So if I can
Mm-hmm.
trust my dreams, I can trust my gut, right? Something
Totally.
that, yeah, not the mind deciding, but the other. Yeah.
Right, right. And the mind is not everything. And you're right, Joanna. I think that's so true that learning to trust our dreams can be a valuable first step in learning to trust ourselves. And many people don't realize that they don't trust themselves. I sure didn't. I thought I'm doing fine. This is great. Now they hired me at NASA. This will be wonderful, and not so wonderful. My gut is churning. Like, so let's pay attention to those things without needing to understand. That's like the dream can be meaningful without knowing what it means, like finding that sense of meaningfulness without knowing without being able to define the meaning.
I love that. I think it's a beautiful conclusion of our conversation and a beautiful point for everyone to take, I hope. So before we wrap up, would you like to say where our listeners can find more information about you, if you have
Mhm.
something coming up about the Festival of Dreams, few words if you like?
Totally. Well, I'll start with saying I'm a podcaster, and my podcast is called The Dream Journal, as we've mentioned, and we have so many episodes. So look up The Dream Journal on any of your podcast platforms, and if you want to speed the conversation around dreams, go ahead and leave me a like or a review. I really appreciate that. And what is coming up for me here in Santa Cruz is the Festival of Dreams, which you can find out about at festivalofdreams.net is how to find information about that. It's October 10th through 12th here in Santa Cruz, and it's going to be like a little mini conference, but it's so much more than a conference. So we're calling it a festival because we're having receptions, we're having a pop-up art show, then we're going to have a dream ball. So on Saturday evening, you can come dressed as a dream character and really embody that inner self that you've been dreaming about. And we have our keynote speaker is Dr. Apila Colorado, who is the founder of the Worldwide Indigenous Science Network, and also Bob Haas, who is the main motivator of the IASD, is going to be giving an invited talk about his fascinating conversations and connections that he has with his wife who has dementia. And so in waking life, they can't communicate, but he's a lucid dreamer and he communicates with her in his dreams. And he talks about what that means to him. And he's done a lot of research. He's a scientist as well, like me. He's a converted scientist. And so he'll talk a lot about the evidence for soul and how that ties into our dreaming and how we can connect that way. And then my main webpage is experientialdreamwork.com. That's where you can connect with me about doing a session. I offer a free introductory session if you want to see what would it be like to work with Katherine Bell. And I do a lot of Zoom, and so I can connect with people worldwide. And I think those are the main highlights. Experientialdreamwork.com is that webpage.
Wonderful. I'm going to add all the links both to the festival and to your website to the notes of the show. And I really hope that whoever is in the area going to check out the festival. I wish I was a bit closer to join, but it sounds amazing. And I love that you call it festival. Like it's really changing completely the vibe of festival of dreams. Whoa, something magical is going to happen there. Like that's my feeling. Yeah.
And my co-host is Linda Mastrangelo, who's a amazing dreamer in her own right here in Santa Cruz. And I've been doing this festival for a few years on my own. And then she joined me and she really jazzed up and really brought in a lot of the magic. We're going to have a hypnagogic dream chamber where you can go into a place lit by dark black lights with dots, and you can create your own Aboriginal creations and put them on the wall. And so there's just all these little magic touches that you can tune into.
That sounds amazing. Okay, so thank you so much, Katherine, for joining me today. I really loved talking to you, and I will be looking out for the book, and fingers crossed that it comes out soon, because the world needs more dreams, more dream stories, and just confirmation that this is something worth investing time in.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joanna. It's a real pleasure.